Hello there, I'm Dave and welcome to my third video in the series about writing a novel. Now if you missed the first two episodes, the first one covers sort of the practicalities of how do you get the words into your computer, how do you start typing it. The second one covers sending your novel off to literary agents to see if anybody's interested. Now, I've sent my second novel off to 21 literary agents and I'm now in the process of waiting for their responses. And as I've said in previous videos, if I don't get any positive responses, then I will self-publish my novel as I did with the first one. While I'm waiting, I thought it might be a really good idea to pass on some of the tips that I've learnt in writing these novels. So in this video, I want to talk about how you get the inspiration to put those first few words on the page and how you grip the reader. So before you start writing, there's a couple of things you need to just sort out in your own mind. First one being, are you writing it in the past tense or the present tense? So is it going to be he said, she said, or he says, she says? Because that's quite important. And obviously in the present tense you get a little bit more immediacy. You sort of immerse your reader in what's happening at this current time, whereas in the past tense you're describing something that's happened in the past. The other thing is the reporting. Are you going to do it from the first person, i.e. I saw, I said, I say, or are you going to do it from the third person? And that's the he said, she said. So with the third person, you're more a narrator of the story. And again, if you're in the first person, you're that person on the scene seeing the events happen. Now, of course, the disadvantage of the latter, the first person, is that you can only see what's going on around you. So your story will centre largely on what you can see or what you've experienced as the subject of the book. Whereas if you're the narrator of the story, you can cover a much wider area. So you can cover, particularly if you've got lots of threads that you want to pull together in the book, you can start talking about all these different threads, these different characters that are going to come into your story. So decide on those before you start writing. Okay, so you've got a really good idea of how your novel will start, but you need to transfer that idea onto the page, and you need to do it in such a way that it really grips the reader. So how do you go about doing that? Well, my tip is this. Take a very simple idea. And I'm going to illustrate this with a photograph. So I'm going to take a photograph across the fields looking at a hill in the distance. The photograph looks okay, but it's not really going to grab anybody's attention. So what can I do? Well, what I'm going to do is come back later and take that same photo at sunset. And all of a sudden, we've got a really interesting photograph, something that people want to look at, those lovely rich colours. So, going back to your book and your blank sheet of paper. Now, I will start off with a very simple idea. Now, I've got a very simple idea in my book, and that is a young man who we don't know anything about is trying to contact a journalist. And that's all it is. That's how it starts off. Now then, so I've got to imagine, where's this journalist going to be? Well, more than likely, she's going to be in an office. That's fair enough. So I've got a young man trying to contact somebody in an office, which is, well, the image is a bit boring, isn't it, in your mind? So what if we make that scene at night? And what if we add a thunderstorm? So all of a sudden we're starting to add some layers of colour onto that rather plain, simple idea. So now I'm thinking, okay, so I've got a building at night in a thunderstorm. Who's going to be in that building? Well, probably a security guard. Now, what's that security guard going to be doing? Well, it's going to probably be looking around the offices just to check it. So I'll read you the first couple of lines from my story here. A pulse of bright lightning filled the deserted office. Monroe blinked, the fierce light burning an orange negative image of the room on his retina. He stopped walking and waited for his eyes to recover, then checked his watch. 11:30, 8 hours to go. Okay, so very simple, but you've got an image now. You've got an office block where you've got offices, you've got lightning, and you've got a security guard. Now, once I've got that image in my brain and those words down on paper, the story starts to unfold. What's that security guard going to do next? How's the young man going to get in touch with the journalist? He's got to get through that security guard. It's pouring with rain outside. There's a thunderstorm. Is he going to turn up at the door? Is he going to phone? There's lots of ideas that come out of that. So another simple idea, just to give you another example. I've got a situation where I've got two people, the journalist as it happens, and a professor attending a conference. Okay? And I want them to meet. So how do I start that off? So I've got to imagine those two people walking towards the conference centre. Now in my mind I think, what if they sort of collide at the door? So again, let me just read you the first few lines. Damn, Jeff, that was a good piece. So why page 6? The woman's cry tore the old man from his thoughts, just in time to avoid a collision at the plate glass door. The woman stopped, waiting, a mobile pressed to her ear. I know, but it's been 2 years, Jeff. Resignation in her voice. The old man pushed the polished steel handle and politely waved the woman through. She mouthed thank you. Still listening, he followed her into the crowded atrium. Yes, I know, I'll cover the Americans' big announcement. Just make sure. Her voice faded as she disappeared amongst the conference delegates. So, you get the picture. It's a very simple concept. I just want two people to meet. And all they're doing is walking towards a conference centre. So that collision at the door and the fact she's on the phone to someone else starts to, well, create questions in your mind. And for me, it starts to create an image. For me, writing is like any creative process. You are adding details and subtleties to the work as you go. So if you know, for example, composing music, you're adding counter melodies and harmonies to enhance the feel of the music. If you're painting, you're adding those subtle tones to add the shape and the form to the objects and the scenes that you're painting. And with writing, what you're doing, you're painting a picture in the reader's mind. So every sentence should add to that picture and create that real movie scene, if you like, for them to immerse themselves in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be back because I'd like to talk about sort of characterizations and how you bring characters to life, or certainly how I approach that. And so I'll be back soon with that, and I will be back at some point with guitar building. I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit cold out in the workshop at the moment, so I'm keeping in the warm, but I will be back with guitar building as well. So I hope you stay with this channel. Please don't forget to hit subscribe, and well, I'll see you soon. Stay safe. Cheers.